Okay, welcome back to Digital Marketing from the Coalface.
I don't know what episode we're on now.
102-ish, something like that. Yeah, we're past 100, the 100th episode. Anyway, you decided that you would pick a subject today that you wanted to talk about, which is great.
I did.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to hear what that is.
Here we go. Yeah, so basically what I thought we could have a little chat about is something that's come up a few times over the last couple of months, which is just this idea of people putting all of their eggs in one basket, I guess, and sort of focusing or hyper-focusing on a specific tactic.
Hyper-focusing.
Yeah, going to go with that.
Is that a thing?
It's, yeah.
Okay.
Bit buzzwordy, I know. But yeah, on a specific marketing tactic. I think
we did.
Yeah. Yeah, no. We've never made a mistake ever.
Yeah. Everyone can do this. Even people that do it for a living can do it and get it spectacularly wrong. I mean, we're not spectacularly wrong, but
no, I mean
we've had an over-reliance on search engine optimization, I would say. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. And I think what's interesting is we sort of started discussing this internally, and then we had a sort of, I guess over a few weeks, a number of clients sort of do the same thing, or people sort of come out of the woodwork as having done the same thing. I mean, some of them were inquiries from new businesses and that sort of thing, and they were saying, look, we've been putting all of our focus on our search engine optimization, and it has been delivering, but we haven't really seen many leads, or we've been doing that for 6 months and nothing's come of it, sort of thing. And also a very sort of long-term client of ours, who obviously we won't name any names, but they've been sort of very wed to the idea of PPC as their sort of driver of growth for many years. And then obviously, I think with all tactics, things have a sort of finite shelf life, don't they? So they're now sort of being squeezed out by competitors. There's just more competition, basically. And that's making it very difficult for them to do what they're going to do, they used to do. And then, you have that sort of crisis moment where you sit down and you think, oh, this thing that we've sort of put all of our energy and all of our effort into isn't actually working. And I think that's probably something a lot of people listening will relate to.
Yeah, I was in I'm in the mastermind group, which is a bunch of agency owners, predominantly in the States, although there is one other agency in the UK part of the mastermind group. And I had a kind of come to Jesus moment with them. And, and they kind of made it pretty clear to me that this reliance that we had on SEO was never going to deliver the growth that we were looking for. And, as a result of that, we've broadened our horizons, and what do you know? We've got some really good gigs out of it.
It works, yeah. But I think part of this is to do with the way that an awful lot of marketing tactics are sort of sold, if you like, to people. I think it's always that, this is the ultimate solution. This is the real deal. This is the tactic that'll actually make you money versus all those other tactics that didn't work. And I think a lot of the time that is the problem, isn't it? I mean, certainly with SEO and inbound marketing, people are very guilty of doing that. You'll see people saying, like, this is the only way to grow your business, or this is the most organic and sustainable way to grow your business. You should put all your eggs in this basket. You should just go for it full throttle, and not be terribly sort of realistic about the variety of options there are out there, really.
Yeah. I mean, we did focus in on search engine optimization, inbound marketing, getting people to find us when they were trying to solve a specific problem. And it worked. It's worked. It continues to work well for us, and it's worked well for us. But there was an element for us, or an aspect to it. There was something anyway, which was like, well, we sell this as a service,
sure.
So we kind of need to show. I mean, do it for ourselves, and which we did, and it works. And I certainly used to mention that to people. If I was speaking to them about inbound, I used to say, well, it's how we generate pretty much all our business. If you take referrals and a bit of networking out of the equation, it's the main way that we generate business ourselves. And I think what I saw happening for us was we started doing lots of gigs for other B2B organizations like us, and it worked fantastically well. It worked better for them than it did and has for us. And we've kind of learned the hard way that in our niche, which is, to use your term, hyper competitive, a reliance or an over-reliance on one tactic is dangerous. If you're in a niche that's less competitive, there aren't many players in the market that you're in, perhaps. There are barriers to entry. then inbound can still work fantastically well.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I think part of it is to do with, and I might be making a bit of a leap here, but part of this is to do with the sort of the way people think and certainly buy things online, isn't it? You know, like you say, if you're in a niche where there's sort of 3 or 4 key players and somebody is Googling a question, they're looking around, they're sort of looking for a service or whatever, and they come across a really useful article by you and a couple of other people, it's not very difficult for them to remember, oh, that, you know, that was that really cool article I read. That brand obviously know what they're about. I think when it gets really noisy, like with us, and there's sort of like, you know, like 30 agencies in every town, village and hamlet in Scotland, it's very difficult for people shopping for an agency to remember which agency it was that published the cool guide that they read 3 days ago or whatever. So the whole idea of inbound, that methodology, I think it is powerful and effective, but I think the problem is when you sort of introduce lots of competitors and lots of noise, you can't really expect customers to sort of remember. And I think the same thing is true of PPC and all these other channels. You know, you're talking about one way of getting in front of somebody once, and that's fine, that's fantastic. But if it's going to take 3 or 4 points of contact for somebody to actually engage with you, then you actually have to be sort of in 3 or 4 different places. You can't just rely on them finding you in search once and then remembering who you are.
So if we take, I don't know, for argument's sake, a professional services company, I don't know, accounting services or
I think that's a good one.
Marketing services, whatever, just professional services company. Where do we think it makes sense to direct the marketing budget?
Well,
okay, I'll ask to get things going, like search engine optimization, SEO, inbound marketing, content marketing, putting stuff on your website so that you improve your search rankings, get found. Is that worth doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it is something that like we would consider a sort of considered purchase where somebody's going to do a lot of research before they engage. They're going to have lots of questions they want answering. Getting there and putting content out there for those sort of longer tail search terms is always going to be useful and effective. Yes.
Okay. All right. So what dovetails nicely with search engine optimization in this marketing mix?
I think pay-per-click or paid advertising and SEO always go sort of hand in hand.
Okay.
Just because paid advertising lets you sort of insert yourself into the sort of peripheral searches that people will make. So you can.
But Alex, I tried PPC, pay-per-click advertising, as somebody called it once, and it didn't work. It cost me a fortune. I spent 38 quid on it, and I never got a single lead.
You did it wrong.
But people are saying that. You know, people are going to say that. You know, they don't recognise, I don't think, that doing SEO, search engine optimization, is labor intensive, which means it's expensive.
Yep.
And if you actually work out the cost of securing organic rankings certainly in some niches, it's hugely expensive.
Way more than just
using
clicks.
paid search.
Absolutely.
So explain, how does PPC dovetail nicely with, as I put it anyway, dovetail nicely, and these are my words, so change them if you want, with search engine optimization?
The way I see it is that basically, so you do a load of research into how people shop for whatever it is you're selling, and you work out what search terms they're using, and then you need to sit down and work out, you know, which ones can I rank for organically in a reasonable time frame, and the ones that you can't, PPC dovetails, because it then allows you to go and pay for the traffic from those search terms that you can't necessarily rank for organically. And that's important because, again, going back to this point, that people do not search in one way. They do not just enter something once in Google, click a thing and buy your product or service, especially not if it's something like accounting or stuff like that. There'll be 3 or 4 things that they'll go and query or ask or whatever, and you want to be across all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it fills in the gaps for SEO, I'd say.
But Alex, nobody ever clicks those adverts. I never click them, and I don't know anybody who does.
The millions of people that click on them every day will beg to differ. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's really interesting how people do have these opinions, though, because it flies in the face of actual solid evidence. The data is out there. Most people click on a Google ad when they Google something. It's not a case of sort of most people go to the organic listing. Yeah. The majority of searchers click on it.
So basically, you can short-circuit the process of achieving organic rankings using paid search. So if SEO is a big part of your marketing mix, marketing strategy, then you should almost certainly be looking at PPC at the same time. 2 reasons, I guess. you can get in front of people for search terms who've typed in search terms that you will probably never be able to rank for organically because they're hyper competitive. Hyper three times.
3 times, yeah.
But secondly, it's quick.
Yeah.
It short circuits the process of months and months of content marketing to try and achieve a ranking, only to find out that ranking doesn't generate business anyway, for example.
Yeah, it's quick, and you also don't tie yourself into this loop, which, and this isn't to sort of be down on SEO. It's a very useful tactic and a huge part of our marketing arsenal, but it gets you out of this thing where you're constantly racing other people to re-optimize and sort of like claim rankings, because if you publish a really good piece of content for a keyword, it is only going to be so long before somebody comes along and tries to outdo you and nudge you back down the rankings. Yeah, we've seen it
ourselves. We've lost loads of great rankings because we've just realised we're fighting a losing battle. We ranked well. We got beaten. We got dropped down page 1 onto page 2 onto page 3, and we were coming up against behemoths. What a good word!
Yeah, absolutely. It's something Julie's really fond of saying, isn't it? That SEO is a sort of ongoing process, and I think that's the thing. What you have to realise is you are entering into an arms race with everybody else who wants those rankings, and sometimes
controversial arms race.
Well,
in the present economic and global political, geopolitical climate, you use a term like arms race.
Sorry, Ukraine / Russia. China, everybody else is at it at the moment.
That's right.
But yeah, and I think sometimes with PPC, it is still very competitive, but it's a much sort of cleaner, neater, shorter competitive cycle. You're not sort of locked into trying to produce better and better content.
Okay, I'm with you on that. And the market research data, info, help, assistance that you get back from a PPC campaign, and we've talked about PPC a fair bit in the last few podcasts, it is hugely powerful as long as you don't, again, as we talked about in the last podcast, please go and listen to the last podcast if you're thinking of using PPC, because it'll save you a fortune.
It will, yeah.
Don't set it and forget it. Don't leave it alone. Monitor it like a hawk or a kite.
Okay, well,
so many kites around here. I
think
like
I saw one
on the golf course
today,
and there's a kite. Yeah. Driving home or cycling home. Oh, there's a kite.
Not
fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of the perks of living here. There's also ospreys round by us on the river.
There's ospreys over at the Boyne Loch as well.
It's amazing. They are amazing birds.
And there are hares in the field outside my house.
Oh, I saw a hare. I saw my first hare. The other day. I thought of you when I saw it. It bounced across the road.
Your first hare, whatever?
No, I think I've seen them before. The first one I can remember seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to Digital Marketing from Cofers, where we talk about kites, hares, and
not marketing.
Not marketing.
But there's something else before we got wildly off topic there that I really wanted to come in on, which is just this whole idea that like these channels, these tactics, the way people describe them sometimes as almost like separate entities, is like fundamentally the problem, I think. Because like you say, you can run a PPC campaign and glean really useful data that you can then just go and directly incorporate into your SEO campaign. You learn by running ads on certain keywords which ones actually convert and which ones send the dross traffic that never inquires. I mean, we've seen this ourselves. You'll advertise on something like HubSpot Developer and get nothing, and advertise on HubSpot Designer and get really good inquiries.
Well, HubSpot Design Agency, yeah, that's right.
And just something like that can save you hours of time, because now you don't have to go and optimize an organic page for HubSpot Developer because it's not a good keyword.
Yeah.
So I think just being agile and remembering that all the data in each respective sort of pot actually influences everything else is really
that one example is going to result in probably about 20 grand's worth of work.
Yeah.
And that was all right. I think the click in PPC cost us 20 quid, 25 quid. And obviously, there's a few 25 quid clicks have resulted in nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
But
which is
overall, the investment in clicks has generated this piece of business, which is fantastic. So, if you don't kind of buy into this idea that PPC can work, if it's done right, it really can work. But search engine optimization, pay-per-click, it's in the search ecosystem, whether it's organic search results or whether it's the paid search results, they're all on that page. It's one place. It's not really a diversification of your marketing strategy to be using just PPC and SEO, is it? No, they're kind of two peas in the same pod.
Yeah, and I don't think it's anywhere near broad enough for, like I say, the way people search nowadays, which I guess sort of the other sort of spoke to this, I guess in my mind at least, is things like this podcast, YouTube videos.
But nobody listens to this. This drivel.
I don't know what you're talking about. Some poor soul is listening right now and questioning their life choices. No, but
As am I.
yeah, well, comes with the territory, I'm afraid.
Does, yeah.
No, I mean, I think, this is the thing, isn't it? People are not just going to Google to ask questions. They're all the time, they're on social media, browsing their LinkedIn feed. They're listening to podcasts on Apple Podcast on their way to work, or they're, on YouTube. I mean, YouTube, I'm not the biggest sort of proponent of or supporter of video content generally, but I mean, YouTube is supposed to be the second biggest search engine, isn't it? A huge amount of people spend time on there.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that in episode 2 of this 102 episode long.
Well, there we go.
Series.
It's a callback. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal. People go there to find information, and if your prospective customers are going to Google and then later that day on, listening to podcasts on Spotify, and then the next morning they're on YouTube asking a question, and you can appear in all of those places. That is how you build genuine brand
Sounds
awareness.
expensive.
I mean, maybe, but that is genuinely how you build brand awareness. I mean, those are the brands you actually remember, are the ones you see in lots of different places. Not the ones
but it's about understanding who your ideal customers are
Yes.
and where they hang out and what sort of content they consume, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Which might mean that you've got to be in, you've got to do SEO, you've got to do PPC, you've got to do TikTok, Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn. You've got to do all of this stuff.
But probably
because they're everywhere, and you want to keep popping up, as you say.
But probably not, because I guess that's the point, isn't it? The other direction you can take this in is people go nuts for the idea of omni-channel marketing and just sort of shotgun the whole thing, and they're like, oh, I want an advert on every social media platform, despite the fact that actual customers are only ever on LinkedIn and Twitter or something like that. So yeah, I think being cautious is definitely really important.
Have you just had enough? Or are you just going to head off?
Well, I'm going to go and project manage my plasterboarding and taping.
Oh, right, okay. Good luck with that. Right, so moving away from search, what else is kind of worth considering? What about account-based marketing, for example?
Yeah, I mean,
And we don't claim to be experts
No.
on account-based marketing, but just kind of figuring out who could potentially be interested in your stuff, and then figuring out in your offering, and then figuring out how to get in front of them.
especially if, like I was saying earlier, this is a sort of very expensive considered purchase where you're trying to sell somebody sort of 30 grand's worth of something over a period of months.
Yeah.
And going and looking for the people is probably a pretty smart way to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, if anyone's listening to this and they want to come on and talk to us about account-based marketing, their experiences with it, etc., that would be good. I think the bottom line is it's not hard to figure out who could benefit from whatever it is you're selling. Mm-hmm. I guess the hard bit with account-based marketing is trying to figure out an effective way of
Not annoying them.
of not annoying them and actually getting their attention. Because it's kind of back to the interruption marketing of the last 50 years.
Yeah.
I suppose as Godin calls it, the TV industrial complex, where you just basically buy the opportunity to force your messaging, if you like, on unsuspecting masses. Obviously, ABM's not really quite as drastic as that, but it does create.
It's sort of the scalpel to the shotgun, isn't it?
A
But
little
it's
bit.
Still...
You do need to figure out how to do it in a way that's going to get attention in a good way, not just annoy people, I suppose. I don't think it's something that we want to really dig into too deeply. But another technique, which is, it's kind of a bit ABM-ish, I suppose, and we've been experimenting with some of these tools like Dealfront and Lead Forensics and Snitcher, for example. And I would strongly recommend, if you haven't tried a 14-day, no credit card required free trial of Snitcher.
You paid commission for that little...
No, I only say it because
Right,
the
it's a
likes of Lead
spiel.
Forensics don't do that.
Yeah,
They do not give you a completely, here it is, free trial. The Snitcher did, and we used it, toying with the idea of maybe subscribing to it, although not really sure at the moment, but just explain to people what Snitcher does.
Yeah, so basically, the way I understand it is that these tools sort of build up these huge libraries of which IP addresses relate to which businesses. And what they tell you is basically when somebody comes on your website, if they know what IP address they've used and that it's connected to a company, they'll say, somebody from this company, Barclays,
Yeah.
or the government, or whatever has been on your website. Here's some likely contact details if you want to get in touch with them, and then it'll guess at various people that it might have been, because it can't tell you an exact individual. But it's also really useful because, like with Snitcher, for example, they tell you what page that person was on and how long they spent on there and all of that stuff.
How they arrived.
Yeah. So like where account-based marketing is basically going like, shove yourself.
Just a second. Julie's making an entrance. Yeah, she's been out doing video and things with clients, so she's back in the office now.
So where ABM, I guess, is about sort of forcing yourself in front of the right person, this is more about like finding out what somebody was doing from an organization on your website so that you can then go and contact them. And it's, I guess, slightly more informed and slightly softer, isn't it?
Yeah, we didn't put any serious energy into following up on the information that Snitcher gave us.
Well, I think that's because fundamentally we're very good at the sort of put useful information out there, very bad at the be aggressive bit, aren't we? But I think that's just our approach, really.
I suppose if you're the kind of person who, if you know that somebody from ABC Accountants in Glasgow was on your website and they were looking at, say, a particular product or service, you would be, with a degree of tenacity, prepared to go after trying to find who it was at that organization. You maybe connect with people on LinkedIn. You could, Snitcher will give you some contact details, so you could try 3 or 4 emails and see if you can get a bite. And there are case studies out there of this stuff being extremely successful. But you've got to ask yourself a question. If you got an email from us at Red Evolution, and it said something like, "Hey, we know somebody from your organisation was on our website. You were looking at our website management offering. Have you got a problem with your website? Are you looking for a company to help you with website management? We know you were on our website because we use this cool tool called Snitcher. Totally transparent, and at the bottom of it, like." If you ignore this email, we won't bother you anymore. So don't worry, you're not in a database. You're not going to get spammed. That's not who we are. It's not what we're about. So if you're prepared to do stuff like that, then, and I know some businesses do that very successfully, and it's a huge multi-million-pound business, this whole kind of snitching, sniffing, sussing type software. It could be really effective. And again, it's moving you away from the passive waiting for people to type a search query into Google and then hoping they click on your advert or click on your organic search result, and then after that read something that makes them think, I'm going to get in touch with these people. Yeah,
and I will also add, it is another way of squeezing value out of all of the other channels we've talked about here. I mean, a lot of what we've talked about so far, video, Spotify, PPC, SEO, they're good ways of generating attention. This is a really good way of actually sort of squeezing value out of that attention you've generated, isn't it? It's not necessarily, you're still reliant on people getting to your site in the first place, but if you're not doing this, like you were just saying, I guess, you're just sort of passively hoping that people engage. And I think one of the things we know for a fact is you can spend a lot of time and effort getting people's attention, and they will just sort of absorb whatever content you put in front of them, say thanks, and sort of wave to you as they ride off into the sunset. They won't get in touch a lot of the time. And we did a couple of weeks with Snitcher and sort of loads of huge organizations that we had no idea were on our website because they just don't get in touch.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Obviously, didn't like what they saw, or
it has your face on the website, doesn't it? So.
That's enough to put anyone off. But in addition, what we sell is complex, complicated, and it's very unusual for somebody to go type, or Red Evolution, click, ring, can you do this stuff for me? It's not how it works.
Yeah.
People do lots of research. They figure out, whether they like the look of a particular company, and then they reach out at some point to say, more or less, can we have a chat? Because we think you might be the right people to help us with a certain thing. Yeah. We know ourselves. We were recontacted today. The first conversation was about a month ago from a large organisation down in Southampton, I think, who are looking for some very specific help. And, so much so that I'd taken them out of our CRM deals dashboard. I thought, well, they've obviously gone away, them. So, that's fine. We knew that we were in the mix with other people, and then lo and behold, today they get in touch again, because that's just the nature of the beast. We as a small business operate at the speed of light. Make decisions quickly, do things quickly. Larger organisations don't.
Do not have that luxury.
It's worth remembering that. We didn't set out today to kind of go through a list of all the different types of marketing that you can do. You know, I've got written down, you know, like radio advertising, joining the local chambers, networking groups, etc. You should be doing all of this stuff as well as the digital stuff. You know, whether it's social media, PPC, SEO, ABM, sniffing software, Snitcher, etc. Whether it's any of all that, you know, it should should be a large mix.
It should be a large mix, and critically, it shouldn't be a sort of as well as if they're all in separate sort of pots, should it? Because all of this stuff, everything that you learn by doing these things, sort of has value to the other bits as well. That wasn't very well articulated. I know what I'm trying to say. They're not lots of isolated buckets, are they? You know, you can go to a networking event and learn a little bit more about how to refine your messaging, and that can feed through to making your website better and your PPC campaigns better. And you really do have to be learning from all of these different channels and sort of plugging all of that data together and doing something very joined up.
When I went to, as I did for about 2 years, Business Network International, BNI, a good few years ago now, but we didn't get any decent business out of it, but made some good friends, met some good people. And importantly, week in, week out, I'm going to sneeze. Oh, bear with me. Oh, here it comes. Oh, for goodness sake. It's gone away now.
How to add attention to a story.
Oh, fantastic podcasting, isn't it? I couldn't help it. You need to sneeze,
It's called From the Coalface.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
What BNI taught me was how to, week in, week out, talk in a very succinct way, 30 seconds or 45 seconds, about Red Evolution, what we did, how we help businesses, what we did for other businesses, and said something, say something that kind of helps people understand how
what
to help
you,
how to help you find, more business. Some of these other things, these peripheral things, maybe don't bring in good business directly, but they can certainly help you figure out how better to talk about your business, and that sort of thing. As I expected, given that you chose this subject, it's kind of run out of steam a little bit now, wouldn't you say? Or is there more to say?
I mean, I guess one of the things we could talk about is how to work out, because as you were saying yourself earlier, it's not necessarily the case that all of these things will work for every business. And I guess there is a piece to be done around working out what tactics are right for your business and how to sort of drill down on that. But I don't really know if that's a subject for this podcast or is just generally, that's marketing strategy, I guess, isn't it? That's just...
Yeah, it might be worth us thinking about outlining what a typical discovery session might look like. We've got a couple of discoveries going on this week. In fact, I think there's one of them on Thursday, which I think you said you wanted to come along to. The one for the organisation in Aberdeen who needs some HubSpot help. So we'll maybe leave that for another podcast. We're just coming up to just under half an hour at the moment, so I think we've subjected people to enough of our nonsense for one day, don't you?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully that's been of some use. If nothing else, review what you're doing. Don't rely on SEO, especially if you've had some success with SEO. You can be fooled into thinking that it's nirvana.
Yeah.
That it's the only thing you need to do. And I suppose in some cases it might be. You might generate enough business just doing that, but there's so many other things that you could be doing to take your business forward and find potential customers and talk to people who might be able to help you grow your business. That reliance on one thing is probably a bad idea. We certainly learned the hard way. We completely went all in on SEO, and it served us well for a while, but it certainly stopped us growing as quickly as we could have, I think.
Yeah, I think you just have to think about what your audience, actually do online. They're not just going to Google and searching stuff, are they? They're all over the place. And once you start to understand that and you start to think about the fact that what you're trying to do is get and keep their attention, I think it becomes fairly obvious that one tactic can't necessarily deliver that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good stuff. Well, you've been listening to Alex and Dave on digital marketing from the Coalface. Hopefully that was useful. If you want to come on the show, you know how to get in touch with us, redevolution.com. Most pages have got a contact form.
They do.
Other than that, that'll do for now. I'm heading over to the golf club.
Going to practice?
No, I'm going to talk to them about how to help them grow the social side of the club, get more people using what is a fantastic facility. So it's kind of marketing related.
It is.
So I thought I'd throw it in there.
Very good.
Digital marketing from
The golf course?
The bunker.
The bunker.
Which is where I find myself most of the time. All right, that'll do for now.